Well, hell of a game we have in Northern California right now.
Yeah.
Or middle. Is it like the middle? Is it?
You can say Northern California.
It's north of LA, so to me it's Northern California.
It's also north of the Central Coast, which is why it's Northern California.
I mean,
No Cal.
Yeah, I just made it about myself, which is a real stunner. I'll make this about myself too. My 49ers are whooping up on the Carolina Panthers, a team that I'm in a complicated relationship with, but better yet, the 49ers prove, I think, just another way that they are legit.
Well, I think what's particularly interesting about this matchup is that the Panthers are coming off bye, so they knew their opponent. They had time to prepare, and yet the 49ers D-line remains elite. Kyle Allen's been sacked 6 times already, and it's not like the Carolina Panthers O-line is particularly elite, but again, they had time to prepare, and Nick Bosa is just a force to be reckoned with. Eric Armstead is also wreaking all sorts of havoc. Dee Ford's not even on the field for most of the game. He's just coming up in relief and just lighting little fires. Interestingly, I believe the 49ers have the Thursday night game, so a quick turnaround against the Arizona Cardinals. And man, I think Kyler Murray's going to get worked.
Yeah, I know. You would think so. And, like, the interesting thing you bring up about this Panthers offensive line, which is a really good point, like, theoretically, yeah, they had a lot of time to prepare for this game, but they still weren't sure going into Sunday who their starting 5 was going to be on the offensive line. The official Panthers Twitter account put out an unofficial depth chart. Greg Little's not around. He's not healthy right now. Darrell Williams taking snaps at left tackle. Like,
also, no.
Ron Rivera. Like, that's not happening. Like, Darrell Williams at left tackle is not happening. Please stop. And then you've got Taylor Moton out there. You know, he's taking snaps at left tackle. You got some goofball I've never even heard of out there taking snaps at left tackle.
Let me tell you, Matt Harmon, no better way to start a halftime show than with some trench talk.
Trench talk, baby. Trench talk. But if you have things that you want to hear about, you have some questions we can answer, hit us up in the chat room. We are down to talk about literally anything. Anything.
I do think it's not anything. I do think it's interesting to see Emmanuel Sanders because usually what's the narrative, right? Right after a mid-season trade, it's going to take some time. But, this is a point that both Matt and I made on the Yahoo Fantasy Football podcast, that Emmanuel Sanders is coming from Rick Scangarello's scheme. Who was Rick Scangarello employed under? Kyle Shanahan. So obviously this scheme is very familiar for Sanders, who scores immediately in this contest for the 49ers, and I think has now had a massive upgrade in terms of fantasy potential for his owners since he has a better play caller, he's got a better quarterback, and he doesn't have to share the slot anymore.
5 targets, 4 catches for Emmanuel Sanders. Both of those are good for second on the team. And
behind, obviously,
George Kittle. Yes, but leads the wide receiver group, which I think we both, as you said, did point out on the podcast. Like, he just becomes instantly the most credible full-field wide receiver on the team. Now, on the Panthers side of things, we were talking about Cam Newton as a possible pickup going into this week. It's tough to say whether.
Were we?
I mean, we went back and forth about it.
Well, so much as I was maybe pushing Matt to commit to a Cam Newton take.
One thing I'm learning in life is that there's a difference between being talked to and being talked with. And I think we were talking with each other about it, even if one person had the stance and one did not necessarily. But the point is...
Well, I think we both agree that the Panthers should employ Cameron Newton as their franchise QB1.
Yes.
Once he is healthy enough to return. The question is, when is that going to be?
Yeah, I'll mention it for the 41st time. I wrote a column on this week for the website.
Well done.
To me, it doesn't even matter what happened today. Kyle Allen could have gone out and thrown 3 touchdowns on the San Francisco 49ers defense, and I think the answer should have always been that they turned the reins back to Cam Newton, which, a lot of people disagreed with. I mean, some people were straight in love with it, but like I had one guy tweet at me, I could kiss you for this article, which sure, like that would have been lovely. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, a lot of other people were just like, another person messaged me and said, you're a racist because of this take. So
because you wanted
I'm like an anti-racist, sort of thing. Like, some like PC bro, I don't know. Basically, that's what they were saying I was. Anyways, virtue signaling. That was what I was accused of doing. That's what I'm saying. You talk about Cam Newton, baby. You're going to run the range of outcomes. So my point in saying all this is that it was not like a clearly defined, this was the right way, this was the wrong way, but at the end of the day, I think it is the only solution they have, which is you have to go back to Cam Newton, because this team, they're getting stomped right now.
Well, and this matchup is interesting because
tough.
you can't just feed Christian McCaffrey the ball 1,000 times in this matchup.
Yep.
You are going to have to use your receiving weapons, and that puts the onus on the quarterback, who, let's be honest, throughout his career has had trouble with focus, has had trouble turning over the ball, has had trouble picking up communication from the D-line, like getting past his reads, right? So that's something he struggled with. He's struggled with turnovers his entire career, and you've got a D-line that's flustering him, and maybe he's also seeing ghosts.
Yeah, it's quite possible. So I think we do see, I don't know when we will see Cam, but we will see him sooner than later.
Do you think he gets traded? Just for the sake of conversation, you don't think he gets traded?
No, I don't think, I think there's no chance he gets traded. No, I think there's 0% chance he gets traded. I would have said that it's like a 70% chance that he's starting over Kyle Allen when he's healthy. I think it could be next week. I think it could be 3 weeks from now. I just don't really know. The fact that he hasn't really fully practiced yet makes me think it might not be next week, but there are other people that are saying it could be as soon as next week. So either way, we're gonna see Cam again.
We should talk about Matt Breida really quickly.
Let's hit on that, because Breida, right before the first half, went to the locker room with an injury. Matt Breida got hurt. A stunning development. But I think even before that, another 49ers running back was really kind of the big guy of the day, which is Tevin Coleman.
Still remains the big guy of the day. And Tevin Coleman, the reason I think, I know I've been so high on him is because of his number of rushes in the red area of the field. He had 12 heading into this over the last 2 weeks, heading into this week. And I have to imagine that Kyle Shanahan, and Matt has made this point numerous times, and I thought it was a really brilliant point to make out, was that Kyle Shanahan is a run scheme genius. And so it makes complete sense that he is keeping Matt Breida, because of his durability issues, away from the goal line. Not that Tevin Coleman's been the most durable back, but certainly Kyle Shanahan believes that he is the better red zone back, and that's why Tevin Coleman's scoring every dang week.
Yeah, Coleman has a really good history against the Panthers. They obviously used to play in the NFC South as the Atlanta Falcons, but he would tear up the Panthers at any chance he would get. But even though they changed up their defensive scheme this year, it's still Tevin Coleman is crushing it right now. On the ground, right now he has 6 for 94, and 2 touchdowns, long of 48. And, of course, he also has a receiving touchdown, so 3 total touchdowns. He's been a smash play. And the Panthers, it's worth noting that while their pass defense has been generally very good this year, statistically they're definitely good, their ground defense has been a little shakier. So this wasn't a terrible matchup for Coleman, but he's doing much better personally than I would have expected in this spot. Going elsewhere right now, I mean,
where are we gonna go?
Where the hell are we gonna go? We can talk about the Raiders. I mean, Hunter Renfrow almost doubles his career yardage on one catch. That's not true. Math-wise, that's not actually true. But I mean, definitely with this offense in Oakland right now, we actually think Derek Carr is in a good spot next week. But we will talk about that in our pickups video.
We will, but there's a little streaming tease, if you will. Tyrell Williams is back, right?
Tyrell Williams is back.
But he's not doing anything.
Not doing anything. He was pretty heavily questionable coming into the week anyways, but I think that's worth monitoring, especially because he's also obviously in a good matchup next week. But we do have a question from the chat that I want to hit on. Sony Michel needs to score a touchdown. What you guys think? Well, I would love to. Personally, I would love to see him score a touchdown because he's on one of my stupid fantasy teams, and it was either him or Frank Gore, and I didn't want to deal with Frank Gore. So I'm gonna pull up that game right now. We could talk a little bit the Patriots and Browns. The Browns look like they're kind of done throwing up on their shoes, so that's nice because they had just a ton of turnovers. But Baker Mayfield is completing 77% of his passes, 10 for 13, 1 TD, 1 interception, a sack, and of course, the interception was he was trying to pitch it up to Jarvis Landry. Mm-hmm. A Patriots defensive lineman comes and scoops it first. I do like this YouTube comment here. If Darnold was seeing ghosts against the Patriots defense, what in the world is Baker seeing?
Ghouls.
Very thematic for the Halloween season. I want to put you on the spot right now because I think this is actually interesting as opposed to talking about why are the Patriots beating the Browns.
But can we just talk about Sony Michel real quick?
We can.
I think a stat that is not being talked about is how many red zone opportunities James White is getting. He hasn't scored yet, so not since week 2, and that was a game against Miami, so everyone scores against Miami. We know they're tomato cans. Fine. But the fact that James White is seeing so much work in the receiving game, which we expect, and yes, Rex Burkhead is back for this one, but he doesn't really move the needle for me, especially not given the chemistry and the trust that Tom Brady has with James White. But James White seeing so many red zone looks, it makes me more curious about Sony Michel. Like, we know that the Patriots can run this carousel of backs, but I think James White is due, is the point. Like, eventually all those looks are going to turn into something, and it wouldn't surprise me if in the second half of this game we do see James White find the end zone as opposed to Sony Michel. Yeah,
that wouldn't be surprising. And I'm going to pull up the Patriots schedule right now, because everyone has talked about, the fact that they've played all these dust balls on offense.
I talked about this on Cover 3. It doesn't matter. People want to talk about whether or not the Patriots defense is real because they've played these tomato cans. Their schedule's awesome. It is pure cake. It doesn't matter if you think their defense is good or not, because really they're not facing that many tough teams. I think they have the Ravens next week, right?
They have the Ravens next week, a bye week, Philadelphia, Dallas, Houston, Kansas City, with Mahomes likely back.
Doesn't matter.
Hold on here. They finished with this murderer's row: Cincinnati, Buffalo, Miami, week 17. Well, they'll lose that week 17 game just so Miami can screw up getting the number 1 pick or something like that. But I do think it's worth noting the James White thing that you're talking about. Like, when I look at this schedule, I think Baltimore could be a good game for James White if Lamar Jackson. Although I will say I think Bill Belichick is going to kind of love the idea of shutting this Lamar Jackson offense down. But I still think that could be a higher scoring game. That's a James White type of setup. The Eagles, if they've found themselves by then, if Deshaun Jackson's healthier, if they're starting to implement more Miles Sanders, more 2 tight end sets, that could be a James White type of game. Dallas, certainly. Houston, Kansas City, I think all of those are pretty good options. So if James White doesn't have this blow-up game in the second half, maybe he's someone you trade for.
And when you look at any other team, he may not have it now, except the Patriots are never a team that pull their foot off the gas, right? So he could have it now. He could not. The point is, the data is all pushing us to believe that he is going to have it at some point.
Yeah, so if he's due, I think, again, try and go out and buy him right now. And by the way, we know for a fact that New England is searching for answers in their wide receiver room, in their pass-catching group. Their answer this week was to trade for Mohamed Sanu. Right now he has 3 targets, 1 catch, 4 yards. So they're still trying to find a way to implement him. There will definitely be bigger games down the line. We have a question from Hunter before I go back to the thing I was going to put you on the spot on 5 minutes ago, which is always great. If you're going to put somebody on the spot, give them time to think about it.
You didn't give me the question, so I'm even more blindsided. It's perfect.
Hunter Hall needs help with Odell Beckham, Scary Terry, Robert Woods, Michael Gallup, David Johnson, and both Henrys. What do you need help with? I don't understand, but I think...
What to do with these guys?
Woods is an interesting one to talk about because he hasn't done anything, right?
Robert Woods.
He
had a game 2 weeks ago.
He had 80 yards. Yeah. Well, and then he had one where he had a rushing touchdown, but he hasn't scored through the air yet. Is he someone to buy based on statistical regression, or is this passing offense? We talked a little bit about this, and you've made the point that give me a break. That was not Jared Goff finding his way.
Oh, yeah. But, I think from the beginning of the season, we've been talking about how this Rams offense is no longer super potent and not potent enough to provide for 3 receivers. But Brandon Cooks was concussed again in this game. So that, to me, allows Robert Woods perhaps an inflation in volume, in which case I'm not totally over him.
Yeah. No, that's actually a really good point. If we are going to lose Brandon Cooks for a while, Robert Woods would be the clear beneficiary.
He's also the most versatile of those receivers. Josh Reynolds is a skinny outside guy. You know what he does. We know what Cooper Kupp does. He's an inside slot guy. He's a safety valve guy. Brandon Cooks was your big play field stretcher. But Robert Woods, I think, saw an inflated target volume last year because Cooper Kupp went out with the ACL injury, and Woods has the versatility to be a possession outside guy and also move inside. And so I think if you're going to miss one of those receivers. Also, Robert Woods was blocking like a man last year, so he can do all the things, which obviously I don't think he's ever going to be a high ceiling guy, but he will give you a high floor.
Yeah, and obviously Josh Reynolds would be the guy who comes into the starting lineup, but the Rams have incorporated tight ends
receiver,
more.
yeah.
You know, I think that it wouldn't be the same situation last year where it's like, okay, Reynolds is like a cheap flyer. Not really. So Christian McCaffrey just scored a long touchdown for the Carolina Panthers. They're going for 2 right now, at least on my screen. I don't care. I'm perfectly content with my decision. Like,
right.
I have never been.
But Christian McCaffrey is like kind of one of your pet. Like you really admire his skill set.
Yeah, and I admire him, and I also love like everything he's doing. Sorry, Liz, this is not just you, but dunking on the people who think he's inevitably going to get hurt. Like, maybe he gets hurt at some point.
You can dunk on me, it's fine.
Damn, it ain't happening yet, you know?
Nope.
Like, I mean, so he's one of these guys that...
Listen, it is biting me. I took Kamara ahead of CMC because I thought that Kamara would be more durable, and look, he's out with an injury.
Yeah,
we all got to take our losses.
This is the thing, you know?
Got to own him.
Like, it's just, I talked about this in the survival kit video that I did a couple weeks ago, like, the size narrative in like injuries is just one I'm so done with.
That wasn't why I did it, but
I know it's not why you did it, but it is why other people do it because he's supposedly little, and it's like he's 5'11", 200 pounds. Give me a break. That's enough. Like it's enough for him to be a durable back. And I still don't know how we're doing this. Like, well, size when the player named Big Frickin' Ben gets hurt every year. He's literally got big in his name. You know what I mean? Give me a break. Okay,
sure.
Before we sign off,
Put me on the spot.
I'm putting you on the spot with this since we're talking about Baker Mayfield seeing ghouls, Sam Darnold seeing ghosts. If you had to rank the 2018 quarterback class, Lamar Jackson, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, Josh Allen, going forward, you get to start a team with one. Put them in order.
I still think I'm going to say Sam Darnold as my number one.
Okay.
Because I think he is being broken by circumstances.
Those circumstances being named Adam
and Gase. I think number 2, to be fair, I had Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, and Lamar Jackson as my top 3 in that order. Mm-hmm. Baker Mayfield was my number 4. Everybody dogged me. Obviously, I messed up on the Josh Rosen pick. Like, that wasn't right. But I think I'd go Darnold, Lamar Jackson, Baker Mayfield, Josh Allen now.
All right. And Josh Rosen's just...
I mean, who?
Yeah. Sad.
It pains me. What would you? I want to hear your order.
I would go Lamar.
You would take Lamar ahead of Sam. Okay.
Lamar, Baker, Darnold, Allen, Rosen.
Okay. So we have the same top 3. They're just ordered differently. And I think Mayfield and Darnold are both really tough ones to evaluate right now in the present moment. I think we've seen a better ceiling from Baker Mayfield than we have from Sam Darnold yet. And of course, Lamar, it's like, he's another one, hey, he could get injured anytime because he's frail or whatever. But, like, during this time that we have him, you've got a really good odd to, you know, be a championship team and build a really unique roster. And obviously we're seeing it right now. The Ravens have built one of the most unique offenses in the NFL. And I think if you can take advantage of that lightning in the bottle, you do it, even if it doesn't last forever. Sure.
So there we have it. And that is going to do it for our late game halftime show. Liz, it's been a pleasure.
Always.
As Scott points out, I have the luckiest job in the world. I get to sit next to Liz Loza every Sunday. And
did he really say that?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Thanks, Josh.
No, Scott.
Or Scott.
Well, this one.
Full disclosure, I'm horrible with names.
Can confirm.
I mean, you should ask Nando or Mondo or the guy who works here that I always call the wrong name.
Yeah, or this one, you know.
Oh. Something about Josh is I just can't get it right.
And with that, we're done.
I guess. Okay.
And with that,